So, with the wildfires still burning in Los Angeles and um, so much devastation, I just wanted to share some insights about grief and gratitude and how they're inextricably linked in the brain. Uh, Grief, losing things, is obviously um, terrible feeling. It's heartbreaking, when you see other people losing things. Um, it's important to remember that grief is your brain's attempt to accept the loss of important things. Uh, that could be your house, or losing a loved one, or even losing, your sense of safety. We can have grief that we lost that carefree attitude we had before. One of my friends from college lost her house in the in the Pasadena fire, and she posted. It was complicated because, like, they were grateful that they were, her and her partner were safe, but like that. Obviously, they were sad that their house was destroyed, and it felt like losing an old friend. And one of the challenging things with grief is that there's not like a shortcut. This is particularly true for a lot of smart, successful people who are used to like getting on with stuff. Like let's get stuff done. But when it comes to emotions like grief, there's often nothing to do with it other than just experience it. Because experiencing it is how your brain accepts that this thing that was so important to you, or such an important part of your life, is no longer there. That means the analytical parts of your brain have to disengage from trying to control that. Like, you can't say, "Oh, I'll just run home and grab this." You go, "Right, my home isn't there." Oh, like, you have to. Acceptance helps your brain to stop trying to control things that it can't control anymore. And when your brain keeps trying to control things that it can't control, it creates anxiety for you, or other negative emotions, or frustration, or anger. This is one of the reasons, by the way, that anger is a common reaction for some people around losing things, because their brain throws a temper tantrum and it's like, well, I don't want to lose those things. I don't mean to dismiss or belittle those feelings, but it's essentially that's what's happening. Your brain's like, you've lost this thing, and you're like, but I don't want to lose the thing. And anger is like a more active emotion than grief, which is about acceptance. And if you try to shortcut that process of grieving, then it often makes problems worse, because like the emotions are still there, but now you're just ignoring them or suppressing them. That doesn't make them go away. So your brain is still trying to control these things that it can't control, and it's going to come out in other ways, in anxiety or disconnection or lack of motivation, or feeling overwhelmed or disorganization or anger. It's going to just come out in other ways, when the root of it is like, right, if you just felt those feelings and acknowledged that that thing was important to you, and it's tough that you don't have it anymore, and there's no shortcut to that. And so, like, in describing these things, I am not trying to dismiss them. I'm trying to help validate them, because this is where gratitude and grief get very inextricably intertwined, is that grief is about paying attention to the important stuff that we no longer have. And gratitude is about paying attention to the important stuff that we still have and hold on to. And sometimes people will not allow themselves to grieve or feel sadness because of the good stuff they still have. They'll use gratitude sort of as a weapon to like bludgeon themselves over the head. It's like, no, I can't feel upset. I'm not allowed to feel sad because my house burned down, because I'm grateful that I'm still alive. Or I'm not allowed to feel frustrated by the fact that my kids are out of school, because like my house didn't even burn down and other people had it much worse. And we get into this sort of like suffering Olympics where we're trying to compare our suffering to other people's suffering, and that's not helpful. So gratitude also has this link with grief, because gratitude also helps us feel our feelings. And sometimes your brain won't even allow yourself to feel grateful because of the stuff that you don't have. Like, we get stuck in this black or white thinking of like, well, yeah, I'm grateful I have my health and I have a good job, but I lost my house. Or, yeah, I'm grateful I have my house, so I'm not allowed to feel frustrated about these other things. And we get stuck in this black or white thinking where our brain is trying to accept important stuff that we can't control, and we're not letting it because we're just doing this black or white thinking, because there's stuff that is important that we need to grieve that we can't control, and stuff that is important that we still have with us, including our memories. That's something that the philosopher Camus described as his invincible summer. When he went back to his war-torn childhood home, I believe in Algeria, he found it was destroyed in the war. Actually, not sure if it was World War I or I think it was World War II. Don't quote me on that. But he found it was destroyed, and he was distraught. And he realized in looking at the rubble, he still had all his wonderful memories. And he said that in the midst of winter, I finally learned that within me lay an invincible summer. That doesn't bring back the things that you have lost, but the memory of those things are still a part of you. They're indelibly a part of you. They're wired into your brain. And where we get stuck is we're like, yeah, but like, I can't feel grateful for that because I have this. And that is why grief is so complicated, because we are grateful that we had the time with people, because we had the time with things that we found so valuable, and now we're really sad that they lost. And one of the things that makes grief even more painful is when we feel like we didn't appreciate the things that we had when we had them. And this is where gratitude can be such a powerful, not antidote, but partner with grief. I like to think of it sort of like the way that improv comedy works, is like the yes and. This person says this, yes and that. And the main reason where our emotions take us wrong is when we get stuck in the black or white thinking, is where we're like, yes, but, or we're not even like, yes, we're like, no, I don't feel that, or that isn't important, that isn't, I don't care about that. And yet your emotions are trying to tell you otherwise. But we can feel this terrible sense of loss, either for ourselves, for other people, and we can be grateful for the stuff that we already have. And that's tough, to be grateful for your house, for running water, for your health. It's tough to be grateful for that sometimes, because you know now, with this shattered sense of safety, that you could lose those things. And our brain doesn't like that. the fact that this important stuff we have in our life right now could be lost. And so it's like, okay, well, let's not focus on that, because it makes you feel vulnerable. But if you can't accept that vulnerability, then you don't get to experience the joy that comes with the gratitude, because you're trying to protect yourself ahead of time from the grief that might happen if you lost it. And it does successfully tamp down your emotions, but you miss out on so much joy. And so, like, one of the consolation prizes of grief is recognizing the fact that, like, that you are grieving means that you have capacity for joy. And if you like shut that down, it might make you feel temporarily better, but you might be, reducing your capacity to feel more deeply. And sometimes that's necessary in the short term to deal with that. But I just wanted to share some of that complexity, because the alternative, if you think about it, the alternative when something bad happens, let's say you lose a house or your dog dies, what's the alternative? To be like, whatever, I can get a new one. Well, then if everything is replaceable, then nothing is meaningful. And in our lives, we do need positive emotions, but we also need meaning and connection with important people. And so, we can use gratitude to help us get through grief, but there's often no shortcut other than experiencing it and trying to tell someone else, like, hey, you shouldn't be feeling this grief because of this other stuff that's possible, or like trying to get them to focus on the positive or whatever because you can't handle their grief. Well, that's often unhelpful. So I'll close with two things. One is a quote from Westworld. I think it was season 2 of Westworld, which I believe was one of the robots was becoming sentient. I don't exactly remember, but the quote was, "That which is real is irreplaceable." You could rebuild a house and still feel grief for the house that was lost. You could get a new dog and still feel grief for the dog that was lost. And You can feel grateful for the time you had with those wonderful things that you have and feel grateful for your resilience. There's a lot of it wrapped up because these things are inextricably linked. Um, and the last thing I just wanted to end with is, my gratitude for so many people who are working so hard to help others. We can't always control the terrible things that happen, but we often can control what we do about it, how we respond, and we can appreciate all of the people who are taking action to prevent further devastation, like the firefighters and emergency responders and people who are taking action to help others who are affected. I sometimes feel helpless. It's like, well, what can I do? One of the things I'm like, okay, well, I can create videos or messages to give solace to some other people, and my brain's like, yeah, but what is that really doing? It's like, okay, well, that's one thing I can do, instead of focusing on everything I can't do. And so I can appreciate everyone who's doing more. I can donate. This is another thing. We were blown away. We went to buy some supplies to donate to a fire station. We got there, they were like, oh, we can't accept any more supplies. Like, they had supplies like piled up, and we're sifting through it, and they were like, they redirected us to bring them somewhere else. And it was like heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time that so many people had beat us to it. They'd thought about it before, and it went and got so many supplies that it was overwhelmed, and heartbreaking that so many supplies are needed. So I just want to express my my compassion to the people who have lost so much and been devastated by so much, and express my gratitude to the people who are to the firefighters and emergency workers who are working tirelessly to protect us, to the people who are focusing on how they can help. And I hope you found some of these insights either useful or comforting. And stay safe.